You
heavy.
literally vaulted yourself onto the back of my motorcycle.
Well, I didn't know what I was doing.
Yeah, neither did I, which is why we almost died.
Welcome to Achieving Failure, a podcast that gives you a break from politics, popular trends, and brings you good old-fashioned life stories that made us who we are today. Sit back and relax with your host, Chris, as he brings you another exciting adventure on how to achieve failure.
We're back, another Achieving Failure episode. This time we have the wonderful, beautiful Jess with us. You are an avid motorcycle rider, but you also like to embrace the whole Evel Knievel side. And how many motorcycles have you wrecked?
None.
You got a motorcycle wrecked the one time I went out to go visit you. We met up. You got a motorcycle. We met in IB. And like later that day, you like wrecked it.
That wasn't my fault.
But you wrecked
I
it.
have never wrecked a bike.
Oh, somebody else did.
My bikes have either been wrecked or I've been hit. But none of them have been my fault. Absolutely none of them. And if I remember correctly, you tried to kill me earlier that day when you got off work at 8 a.m. and said, let's go meet at the ye old plank down in IB and
Okay,
have
that
fucking
really-
Irish coffee at 9 a.m. And then you're like, hey, get on your bike. And then you proceeded to jump on the back of my bike when I'd been riding for like 2 days. And you thought it'd be hilarious as I'm like shaking so badly. I thought you were going to kill me. I was so mad at you.
Well,
And I will never forget that.
in my defense, we didn't really...
And literally 3 hours later is when I wrecked my bike.
Well, in my defense, we didn't really make it that far down the road because I was too fat and I counterweighted. I was terrible counterweight on a bike. I was too back
You
heavy.
literally vaulted yourself onto the back of my motorcycle.
Well, I didn't know what I was doing.
Yeah, neither did I, which is why we almost died.
It didn't help that
I was so mad at you.
we went at the Yale Plank. You ordered a Long Island, and the bartender kept fucking it up to where you're like, "This doesn't taste good. This isn't good. I don't like this. I don't like this. I don't like this."
That doesn't sound like me at all.
And you went about. I think you went about through 4 of them, and I'm going. The lady's like, I'm just gonna throw it away, and I'm like, no, I'll drink them. So after my Irish coffee, I proceeded to have about 3 or 4 bad Long Island iced teas.
I tried to have an Irish coffee with you, and it tasted terrible.
Yeah. So, and that's when then I proceeded to vault myself onto the back of the bike at 235 pounds of just IPAs and Pillsbury.
Sexual frustration.
Yeah.
The angst.
So
I like am remembering the rage that I felt at that
you
point.
said, "Get the fuck off my bike."
Dude, because it was literally shaking so bad and I didn't know what to do. I literally had just gotten the bike like 2 days earlier. And you were the goddamn devil. And literally I ended up in full leathers. I was headed to the Chargers Raiders game.
Yeah.
And riding behind Colin. And dead stop traffic. I ended up getting super sick. I thought I had like carbon monoxide poisoning from sitting in traffic for so long, but I ended up telling it was like a nurse or a doctor or something like what happened because they had asked like, oh, like, have you ever been in any accidents? Da, 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 da. And I told them what happened about how like my stomach got super sick and my head started hurting really bad, and I thought I was going to throw up, and they were like, that sounds like you got like heat exhaustion or like when your body overheats or whatever. So when the officer like waved us through to get to what is now Snapdragon Stadium, I made it like from first gear, second gear, and that's the last thing I remember was getting through the intersection, and then I passed out from heat exhaustion.
Jesus.
And I slammed in the back of this lady's car, woke up 10 minutes later on my back. I don't remember the accident at all. I don't remember anything. I remember hitting second gear, and that's the last thing I remember. But I woke up with 6 broken ribs, internal bleeding on my spleen and one of my kidneys. And of course, everybody is pissed because they're all trying to get into the game, and I am like laid out in the middle of the only intersection entrance to get in. Ambulance had to jump the curb to come get me. They cut my brand new leather jacket off me, and I was pissed. My favorite pair of jeans, the whole thing. They cut it all off me, and they put these like sensors on me, and they put an IV in me. And the weirdest part of the whole thing was the guy had put like the heart sensor, like does one on your chest and one on your arm. And when they stick it on my arm, I'm like, ow, that hurt like really bad. And he goes, like, you probably just like bumped your arm or something. And I
Yeah.
was like, okay, cool, whatever. They get me to the hospital. The absolute sweetest sassy black lady that still to this day, I remember she came in and she was like, oh, honey, like what happened? And I was like, I don't remember. So they switch out the tabs. And as she pulls this like heart sensor monitor off my arm, she pulls out like a 1.5 inch shard of glass that had snapped off in my arm.
Jesus.
And they just happened to put this stupid fucking sensor directly over it. So when the sticky part got into the glass, they pulled it off. It pulled it out of my arm, and my arm just starts shooting blood everywhere. And she's like, "Oh," and so gross. It's like this like fucking arc of blood, and I am in so much pain. They patch up my arm. They go to give me morphine because obviously I'm in immense amounts of pain, and they're trying to do a CAT scan. And that's when they find out I'm allergic to morphine. And my whole body starts burning from like where it enters in the IV. My arm starts breaking out in hives, and I'm like, ah!
Jesus.
And the doctor's like, I'm sure it's just because it's cold. Give it a second. And I'm like, my arm is on fire. Please, like, make it stop. And he looks down, and my arm's just like immediately puffing up. And he goes, oh my God, like, flush it, flush it. So they cut
So
it.
how do you flush that?
So they follow it with a whole bunch of saline. They literally like
Okay,
dilute
okay.
it through my body
Okay.
and immediately follow it up with Dilaudid. And I have never felt so good in my goddamn life. He gives me Dilaudid, and I was like, oh, you needed me to put my arms over my head for this x-ray? And I was like, sure. And I like fling my arms, and you can like hear my broken ribs just like, and I'm just like, lee, 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 lee. And they're like, you need to stop moving. And yeah, so that was, I was spent 3 days in the hospital, and I immediately called my mom, and I was like, hey, I was in an accident, like I'm fine, but they're gonna monitor me just in case like I need surgery for like the bleeding of like my kidney or my spleen, whatever. And they literally fed me orange jello for 3 fucking days. And I wanted to kill everybody. I still have this day to this day have not touched orange jello. I won't do it. The smell of it, the look of it, it's awful. I can't do it. But that was my first accident. And then my second major accident was I was hit by a car on the 52. I was on my way to work, and there was a truck in front of me and a truck behind me. And this little 20-something-year-old thought there was an open space, and she cut across 3 lanes from the whole right lane, like slow lane, all the way across into the fast lane and sideswiped me right off the side of my bike. And as I'm like laying on the ground, and of course, again, traffic is at a total standstill at 7:45 in the morning on a Wednesday.
Oh, the amount of rage.
The amount of rage.
Was I living in San Diego? That was probably me.
It was 2000. That was 2016. It was February 2nd of 2016.
Might have been back.
Um,
But then again, every day. Oh my God! After I got to tell you about a fucking crazy wreck I saw. But well.
okay.
But
So
no,
this
I
girl
wanna-
gets out of the car. So she pulls over, gets out of the car, and she's like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. My dad rides a bike. I swear I always look for bikes. And I'm laying on the ground just like, well, you missed this one. And she's crying, and I'm trying to comfort her from the ground where I cannot move. Turns out when she hit me, I actually had a tear in my C4, C5.
Jesus.
Obviously, they strapped me to a board, put me in the back. But the thing I will never forget about this, there was a doctor somewhere in the line of cars who came out to check on me, and he's like, are you okay? Like, can you feel your fingers and toes? Da 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 da. And I'm staring at this guy, and I am like crying laughing. And he's like, what the fuck is wrong with you? And I was like, you look like Doogie Howser. I swear to God, he looked exactly like Doogie Howser. And I'm not crying because I'm in pain. I am crying from laughing so hard, and I can't. And he literally like looks at me, and he just gets up and walks away.
Wow.
Like he no longer fucking cares. He's like, if you die, it's on you. Like, fuck you, lady. Gets in his car and just waits for the fucking ambulance. But yeah, those are my only 2 major motorcycle accidents.
So I had a major accident, but the one that I'll never forget, and this is one of the, so there were two incidences I saw just driving randomly. One was kind of a quick one, and this is still one of the funniest goddamn things I've ever seen, and it comes back to random shit that I see. And some guy's just sitting there holding his arm out the window, and here comes some guy on a sports bike and just gently rubs his hand down the guy's arm and then just takes off, and the guy goes, "What the fuck?"
I can't tell you how many times I have wanted to touch people who have their hands out the window.
And I saw that, and I was fucking dying because it literally happened within like 2 seconds. And it was one of those, if you were not looking, you would have never saw it. And just the fact that he slowed down. He came to a crawl just to rub his hand down
That's
his arm.
amazing.
And it was actually impressive, too, because he did it with his right hand.
With his throttle, yeah.
Yeah, so, I mean, you got to, like, rub his hand and then throttle. It was the greatest thing ever.
So I have to tell you, with that being said, last weekend I went riding with a couple of girls, and on our way back down to San Diego, we're just blasting down from Temecula, and that big, huge slope that comes all the way down, which I absolutely love. And I'm like, we're weaving in and out of traffic, and there's a kid with his head out the window, like it's traffic, right? So he's
Did you
just kind of
smack it?
looking. No.
Oh.
So I thought he had his head out the window and he was like looking at the bikes. So I slowed down to like wave, and he threw up out of the fucking passenger side window. This kid was car sick. And he almost threw up on me. And I was sitting there thinking like I was going to wave and he was going to be so excited. And that was not the case. Like this kid looked green as fuck. Like he was just like, bleh. And I was like, oh God. And I like took off really fast. And I was like, I swear to God, if there's any vomit on my bike. But he missed me. So that was fortunate. But that's the one time I like slowed down to like interact with somebody in a car. And clearly did not work out for me. And I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna avoid it.
So one of the other times I was driving home, and again, this was coming home. This is the opposite way. I think it was the 5 to the 15. And the way, I don't remember it. If I pulled it up on the map, I could probably figure it out. I'm going 5 north to the 15 because I'm coming up and over down
Are you
into
sure
the
it's
15.
not the 5 to the 805? The
Because-
5 goes into the 805.
Because here's the thing. There's this huge loop around for, I think it was the 15th to get onto the 805. So I'm going up and over to get onto the main highway. This guy's coming around this hairpin turn.
yes.
And
the 15 to the 805.
he's got this
that loops.
crazy big Harley, and all I remember is just looking. And as soon as I looked, he goes boom right into the wall. Bike fucking explodes. Everything goes everywhere. He gets thrown.
It's
bike
like a
goes
25
everywhere.
mile per hour hairpin.
I mean, he fucking hit that going fast.
I wonder if he survived.
And I said, "Holy shit!" I pull off, and nobody else saw it, so I pull off to the side of the road, and that was kind of like that where there's like a huge 50-foot gap of like shrubbery.
Shrubbery. Wait a minute.
I also need to ask, why the hell do you have a washcloth right there?
I don't know. That's why I was waving earlier. I was like, why is this out here? I think when I went to the bathroom and I like washed my hands and I dried my hands and I brought it out here with me.
So I remember the bike exploded and I pull off to the side and I go running across all this shit, all this shrubs and all this bullshit. And I asked the guy, I was like, holy shit, dude, are you okay? He's like, he's all fucked up on the side of the road. And a bunch of other people come to help. And a bunch of other people come running to help him. And I think like 3 or 4 other guys come to help. And I said, cool, you're helping him? I ran over to go get the fucking bike because nobody's paying attention to the bike. And thank God at that point, I've been riding my motorcycle for a little bit now. I run over immediately. I immediately hit the kill switch on the bike because the bike's still running. Hit the kill switch. And then me and this other guy pick it up. I said, dude, we got to get this bike out of the road. So I pick the bike up and we start moving. Oh shit. Oh, hold on. It's still in gear. So I mean, I was smart enough to hit the kill switch, but I wasn't smart enough to remember, hey, fuckhead, it's still in gear. So I got it and I went through and I picked everything up and I like I was like, you good? He's like, the ambulance finally showed up. The cop showed up, and I was like, all right, I'm out of here. But one of the craziest, the only time I really wrecked my bike was way back when. I had an old little Honda Shadow, little 750. And
It was black, wasn't it?
it was black with red flames.
I do remember that.
And as much as I love that bike, I used to ride with my girlfriend all the time. She had a Ninja 300, which scared the shit out of me. Not because it was a sports bike, because it was like extremely light. So
You could
any
throw
gust
that
of
thing
wind,
around.
I was like, God, I don't like this. So I was riding home in New Jersey. This is North Jersey. I was riding home. No, I had to go pay. I was working at the bus depot, and I already put fuel stabilizer in it because it was October. It was almost time to winterize the bike, and I said, my one friend goes, "Hey, so and so is here at the bus depot. You want to pay him for the parts?" Because this guy would always drive up, and we would buy parts from him. He was almost like the Snap-on guy. He would just sell shit out of a rape van.
Oh, that's fun.
So, I said, yeah, let me run down real quick. Let me take the bike out for one more hurrah. And I took the bike out, and I was driving down, and I was by the Garden State Mall, which is a massive, massive mall. And I'll never forget this jerk off in some little Honda piece of shit Civic. It was like those old 96 ones.
I had a 96
Came
Civic.
flying, but it was one of those like hatchback Civics. It was ugly as shit. Came flying, like you said, 3 lanes across, and I had this conversion van in front of me. That conversion van slammed on his brakes, and for me, I'll say, I only been riding it for maybe 4 months. I'm not experienced enough, especially in situations like that. I freak out, immediately grip front brake, hit foot on the rear brake, and all I remember is just hearing screeching. And it was one of those, I kind of looked over my shoulder and I almost saw the back tire. Next thing I know is I hear boom, 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 and then just tires screeching. And I was like, what the fuck? And I got up, and the only thing that I remember was I got up and I stood in the middle of the highway and I said, 4 lanes of traffic is pretty goddamn wide whenever you're standing in the middle of it. And I looked, and I was kind of like, and all I saw was 4 lanes of traffic right in front of me. Like, everybody stopped.
And you're just standing there.
This is, I don't know, 4:30, 5 o'clock in the afternoon. This is rush hour traffic, and it's just a wall of cars. And I looked, and I said, I'm closer to the median. So I ran to the median, and I just stood there. And
Where's your bike?
in the middle of the highway.
Oh, wonderful.
So, I'm like, fuck the bike. I'm out of here.
I mean, yeah, that's fair.
So I ran to the median, and I just kind of stood there, and everybody's getting out of the car like, you okay? You okay? And I was like, yeah. And this fire chief comes over, and I'll never forget this poor man. Older man, late 50s, maybe early 60s, white mustache.
Ready to
blonde
retire.
hair, yeah. He comes out, he goes, are you okay? And I go, fuck. I just put fuel stabilizer in that thing. God damn it. He goes, I didn't think you were getting up from that. And I was like, are you okay?
Like, do you need a hug?
Like, are you okay? Like, he was so shook. He was so shaken.
Shook?
Shook?
Sure. It's what
Whatever.
it's what the kids use.
He was so,
Shooketh.
yeah, he was so upset. He goes, I didn't think you were getting up from that. I was like, is it that bad? He goes, you flew so far. I was not expecting you to get
Oh,
up
no
from that.
shit.
Because the way I landed was when I slammed on the brakes, I locked up both wheels and I proceeded to turn the bike sideways, and then I got launched off the bike, and the motorcycle actually flipped to where I dented the fuel tank on both sides.
Wonderful.
So I managed to actually flip the bike down the highway, get thrown, I don't know, 5-6 feet, and I landed on my shoulders and my head, and I cracked the helmet all the way up the back.
Oh, at
And
least you know the helmet worked.
I got up and just kind of ran off to the side, and I was like, whoof. And I remember the only thing that hurt was I felt like I got a really good kidney punch.
Oh.
And I was like, And everyone was like, dude, oh my God, like, are you okay? Are you in shock? And I was like, hold on, I gotta take my helmet off. And they're like,
Don't take your
wait
helmet
for the
off.
ambulance. So I take my helmet off, I throw it onto the ground, and I get
Breaks
on the
into
phone
two.
and I go, hey, Albert, everybody's freaking out and the fire chief's having a fucking panic attack. And I'm on the phone going, hey, Albert, hey, can you tell so-and-so I'm not gonna make it? I just kind of wrecked the bike on the 17, on I think it was Route 4. Because we take Route 4 to 17. No. Yeah, 4. I don't remember where it was, but I was like, I'm not going to make I just wrecked my bike. He's like, what the fuck? Yeah. That ain't
There's
good.
not really any other way to respond to that.
Now,
Like, I
mind
just
you,
wrecked
while
the bike.
all this shit is happening, my poor girlfriend was working at a supermarket.
At least she wasn't on the back.
This was her first day at a new store because she was, I think at that time she was doing something. I don't remember if it was assistant manager or something like that. The first day at a new store. I go to the hospital. I get sent home. My friend Jen was living with us at the time. I was like, yeah. She goes, where's the bike? I said, Funny story. She said, what the fuck? Oh, yeah, I kind of wrecked it. And then my girlfriend comes home and she's like, where's the bike? I said, I kind of got in a motorcycle wreck. She goes, why didn't you call? I said, yeah.
You were at work. I
It
didn't
was
want to
your
bother
first
you.
day. You started it was your first day in Ramsey. I didn't want to bother you. You were in the fucking hospital. You got into a fucking motorcycle. I was like, I'm fine.
I'm fine.
Everything's fine.
Mm-hmm.
So that was my one and only motorcycle wreck. Except the one time I almost laid the bike down when, again, I don't remember what the main road is, but it's by the Aero Club. You know, you go down the Aero Club and there's a Shell station right on the corner. And if you keep going, you got, well, now it's a motorcycle dealership. And then,
That's GP Motors. That's actually where I bought my Ducati.
so that Sunco.
It's like sassafras.
Yeah, something like that. That Sunco, you have the gas station, but on the back, you kind of have like this hard bank.
Mm-hmm.
So my stupid ass, I was riding the motorcycle and I was like, well, I don't like this, but I'm going to go around to the other pump. And I tried to go up the bank and all of a sudden, and I put my foot down.
And it didn't help.
And I mean, I just stopped it enough because I can't pull the bike back up because now I'm on a bank. That bike, I don't know, that bike is, and this is when I had my Vulcan. This is when I had my 900 Vulcan. So that probably had to weigh 600 pounds.
I was going to say, yeah, somewhere between 6 and 7.
And it was one of those,
help.
and then some guy gets out of the car. He goes, do you need help? I'm like, because I stalled out. I'm about to drop it. I can't take my foot off the
Yeah.
ground to put it back into neutral.
Yeah.
I'm like,
So I bought my Ducati last September. So I've had it for officially a year. And I went riding up to Mount Soledad to go see the sunset. And there's a lot of like quick switchbacks. And I was following some cars and I made it up the switchback. And there's another one. And as I'm going up, I realize it's a sharp turn to the right. And it is a very like uphill turn to the right. I slow down entirely too far. And as I'm turning, I see 3 of those, what do you call them? Not the bumpers, but
like the road.
they're like the little white cones that are in the street that you avoid.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
I don't know what they're called. The fuck are those called?
I don't know.
Anyways, so they're there, and behind it is a trash can. And I see how far I had already turned, and I like go to gun it because I was going to stall going up this hill and turning right at the same time. So I just hit the first one thinking I'll be fine, except when I hit it, it jerks my wheel to the right, and I take the trash can out, and I drop the fucking bike
Oh, no.
in an uphill slant. So I drop it facing uphill, and immediately it starts trying to slide back downhill. So I'm holding on to it. I hit the kill switch, and this white Honda Civic with this really young guy and girl like pull around me and stop. And the guy jumps out and he's like, "You need help?" And I was like, "Please." So him and his girlfriend actually helped me pick up the bike and pull it into oncoming traffic because it's the only straight like way to get it up. So the lane is going this way. I am now across 2 lanes of traffic. They hold it up. I hop back on the bike, get back down, start it up, and make it back up. And I have never been more embarrassed in my life than a brand new, it's got less than 3 miles on it, motorcycle. It's a fucking Ducati. And the first thing I do is I run it into, it's a Pollard? Fuck, I still can't remember what they're called. But yeah, I end up clipping it and it puts me into a garbage can and I drop it and I have scratches down the whole fucking right side of it. And I was like, well, this is excellent.
Got 2 hours.
Ugh, until doomsday.
Yeah. So we'll wrap this up real quick for now. But Jess, thank you for coming on. It was a pleasure. I am like super excited that I got you on here. Originally, it was like 15 to 20 minute episodes, and some of the times I've been talking even by myself, they've actually been getting stretched out longer to more of a 30-minute. But again, they're stories, so I don't want to.
Story.
There's no reason to have like a 2-hour story. Write a fucking book. But again, thank you. Like I said, I've wanted to do this for forever. Have you come on out here? So, and originally I was thinking just doing video chat, but it's a lot better to have you in person.
Yeah.
So for 2 hours, we could watch you drink wine and eat brownies. So
Brownie is so good.
maybe I just do a time lapse of just cuts of you
Just
eating
me,
brownies.
just like my little bits and pieces
Yeah.
that I'm trying to quietly eat so you can't hear me on the microphone.
Well, I need to come to San Diego and go for a bike ride. So
Are you going to ride on the back of mine?
maybe
Hell yeah.
we'll
I
relive.
promise not to drop you.
Yeah, we'll relive old times. It'll be like, hey, I know you have a nice Ducati, but I'm totally gonna hop on the back of that.
I can actually handle that now. I'd 100% be able to do it.
I still have never really had anybody on the back of my bike.
Oh my God, I have people on the back of my
Of
bike
all the
time.
bikes, of all the bikes that I had this one chick that I was seeing for a little bit. She sat on the back of the Vulcan, and it was literally from the street into the parking garage. And that was maybe 200 feet. And I just never had anybody. And especially my Triumph now, they took the rear pegs off of it.
They did?
Yeah,
Or you did?
they did.
Oh,
I didn't realize until after I got it. I was like, I don't even have rear pegs. So
you don't need a backpack.
So
They can't ride their own bike.
So everybody who wants to ride it, I'm like, sorry, don't have rear pegs.
Yep.
I don't want you on a bike either. So
So I don't know when the last time you saw the Plank down in IB, but they gave it a massive facelift. It's like a whole new thing.
really,
Like the inside's still identical. The patio's still identical, but the outside, it's like the whole new lettering. It looks way more modern.
Really?
It's weird as shit. But yeah, I just went past it like 3 days ago when I went riding down the Strand.
Well, maybe we're just gonna have to go relive San Diego, because I also went down to, I think at that particular time it was called Michael's, and it used to be an old firehouse that they converted into a bar.
Where? In IB?
Yeah. So if you are at the Plank, like you walk out the Plank, there's like a main road that goes straight all the way down. I think that was actually Imperial Beach Boulevard.
It is.
You go down that couple blocks. I think if you walked it, it's maybe 5. I would highly doubt 10 minutes, but it was like 5 minutes. But you
Okay.
walk
It's a
down.
very short stint.
Yeah.
Because it's just a bunch of stop signs.
Yeah. But it's right there. It used to be an old fire station that
Then
they
I
converted into a
rode
bar.
past
And that
it.
was my old stomping ground too.
Wow.
Because they took credit cards. The Plank was always cash.
Yes, it was.
So I like the other place better because here's my card. Please give me back change. The Plank, you were kind of a little aware of. You ain't got no more cash. Go take it out from the ATM. So you were a little more self-aware how much you were spending.
Anyways, thanks for having me.
Well, thank you.
It's been a blast.
Now we got to take a quick break and I got to show you some reaction videos.
Gross.
Thanks for listening to this week's episode. For more info, find us on Facebook and Instagram. And if you have a story you'd love to share, shoot us an email at aflvpodcast@gmail.com. That's AF, Achieving Failure, LV, Las Vegas, podcast@gmail.com. Thanks again, and we'll see you all next time.